So if the FBI recognizes that they need to track these funds in case of congressional audit, then nobody can argue that it's impossible or improper for Congress to audit or question those funds. I think it's appropriate for anyone on this committee to ask OPR, when we know of a complaint against a Department of Justice official, did it stop at initial review? Did it go on to inquiry?
At today's hearing, Senator Whitehouse expressed frustration over the Attorney General's refusal to answer key questions about Justice Department procedures. He focused on two issues. First, how the FBI handles and tracks cash used in investigations. He explained that the FBI's own rules require detailed records and audits of such funds, meaning Congress has every right to ask where the money went, especially when large sums, like $50,000, remain unaccounted for.
Thanks very much, Chairman. There were a number of questions at the hearing to which Ms. Bondi gave no semblance of an answer. I just want to discuss two of them and where they fit into Department of Justice procedures. The first has to do with when FBI agents get cash to be able to use the cash in an investigation. There is as you can imagine, very considerable amount of procedure before large amounts of cash are distributed to FBI agents related to ongoing investigations. There's actually a unit called the Commercial Payments and Confidential Services Unit that oversees how those payments are distributed. When an investigation in the field sees a need for those funds, they contact the unit transfers the funds to the field office, and the FBI agents go on about their business. As you can imagine, that is all subject to regular report and regular audit. And I would also add, it's a purely administrative matter. It's follow the money. And particularly in a case like this one, Mr. Homan, the case is closed. So there's no danger to an ongoing investigation. Not only does all of that procedure lend itself to congressional oversight, but the FBI procedures explicitly state that these expenditures, and I'm quoting here, must be accurately recorded in case of a congressional audit. So if the FBI recognizes that they need to track these funds in case of congressional audit, then nobody can argue that it's impossible or improper for Congress to audit or question those funds. And of course, if $50,000 goes out of a U.S. account and then doesn't come back, that's a worthy question as to why that money that was put out of a U.S. account never came back. So that's the FBI procedures background or backdrop, if you will, to the question that I asked that the Attorney General, in my view, improperly refused to answer. The other has to do with the Office of Professional Responsibility. And here's how what's called OPR within the Department of Justice works. Anybody who's got a complaint about the way in which a Department of Justice attorney has conducted themselves sends their complaint to OPR. OPR does what they call an initial review that screens out the crank calls and the meritless accusations. And if there's any there, you get through that initial review and you move on to an inquiry. They call it initiating an inquiry. And once the inquiry is initiated, then OPR goes about doing an investigation and preparing a report. So what happens with the report customarily is that a summary of the report is prepared, and that is released publicly. So I wasn't asking her for when I asked for the summary, I wasn't asking her for anything that wasn't a matter ultimately of public record. That's how they do it. And you can understand why they do it that way, because part of the purpose of publishing OPR summaries and outcomes is to give guidance to U.S. attorneys, assistant U.S. attorneys all around the country into what the rules are and what the precedents are related to their conduct as lawyers. So it's unsurprising that those summaries are provided. More than that, OPR's own website provides that it will actually produce the investigative reports, not the summary, produce the investigative reports to Congress when properly requested. So I think it's appropriate for anyone on this committee to ask OPR, when we know of a complaint against a Department of Justice official, did it stop at initial review? Did it go on to inquiry? Were investigation steps taken? Was there a final report? Show us the public summary, and we are requesting the investigative report. That seems just completely ordinary. And for that reason, I would hope that the committee generally, knowing that this goes back and forth, would support my pursuit of actual answers to those very simple questions that the Department of Justice itself acknowledges Congress has the right to get. So thank you for letting me make that statement. I hope that clarifies what is going on here. I do not intend to give up on answering these questions just because, well, let me say I'm married to a marine scientist. And one of our big products offshore from Rhode Island is squid. And what squid do when they feel threatened is they squirt out a jet of ink and then they zip away, leaving the little cloud of squid ink in the hope that that distracts from the squid itself. And I think we got a lot of squid ink from that chair, from the Attorney General, rather than real answers. And I think we're entitled to real answers. And in these two cases in particular, Department of Justice procedures concede that Congress is entitled to answers. So thanks for hearing me out.
Thank you.